And welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the High Low Sports Podcast as we are working our way now into June as well. It is DJ joined, as always, by my co-host Kelcey as well. Today we have a bit of a fun episode, I think is what we're going to say as well. Too. We're going to take a little bit of a veer from the serious sports talk and dabble into a little bit of, how do I want to describe this? Tag team fun? Is that how we want to describe it?
I don't think that's the right appropriate term maybe for that one, but look,
see, I'm going left and you go all the way around into the gutter there, good sir.
I wasn't very far from the gutter. There was no going around the world to get to the gutter on that one. It was
we were going down the porch and you reverted back and did a backflip.
All right, whatever. If you say so. All I know is it is Best Friends Day, so we're going to have a whole lot of fun and talk about some of the best duos in the game. And not just in the game, but in sports movies as well. So, yes, that does open up the possibility of Bugs and Daffy making an appearance on this list. Although I didn't pick Bugs and Daffy, so I was just throwing it out there. There's a possibility, though.
You gotta have a little bit more game to make this list than that as much too, as well. So you can't be 2 guys that are just riding the coattails of somebody else at that point too. Like you gotta have a little bit more game to make the list, just a little bit.
I mean, look, if Lola Bunny had a better friend on any of the shows, on any of the Space Jam movies, I would have picked her and somebody else because she obviously had the best game of any of the cartoons. But I can't pick her. So
unfortunately, the bar was set that low. That's kind of why she was able to have such a good game. Nobody else really wanted to hit a shot. But I digress. They were all 3-and-D guys. They just didn't really hit the threes either. So, they were mostly defenders at that point. So before we can go, we'll go on to this topic for a very, very long time. We're only talking about the original Space Jam. We haven't gotten to the second one. So to avoid going off into that topic as well, too, we're going to go and slide on into our opening segment known perfectly as the tip-off. The tip-off, of course, brought to you by Dr. Squatch. Smell like a man, feel like a champion. Go ahead and click the link in our bio. Head on over there and get yourself some soap for that special someone in your life as well, too. And Kelcey, I feel
or like maybe your best friend that smells bad. I mean, take your pick.
I wasn't going to at you this time, but okay. But anyway, we're going to move.
Really, guy? Really?
You set it up. It was easy.
I was talking about your dog, but anything. All right.
Both of our dogs, but okay. That's
fair enough.
But regardless, now.
Too much rain.
NBA Finals, Game 3 tipping off right here in they're just starting right now as we started going live on air as well too. Series tied 1-1 apiece, but I want to start with something kind of wild here. ESPN's BPI index, as far as like who they think is going to win the series, still after being tied 1-1 with the Warriors blowing them out in Game 2, says the Celtics have an 86% chance of winning. On our last episode, we kind of posed that question in our roundtable with Casey and Antonio kind of talking about the finals as well too. And even they both agreed the percentages were absolutely ridiculous and made no sense. What are your thoughts now when the Warriors have had a big lead and choked it away in Game 1, and then Game 2 had a big lead and ran away with it in Game 2? Like they've had two pretty dominant for the most part of the series, and now they still have less than 20% chance to win according to this.
I am gonna look straight at what Antonio said and say somebody at ESPN has an agenda, and they are trying so hard to make this a Warriors agenda at the end of the day. Like, the Warriors overcome an 86% chance to lose in Game 2. And no, at this point in time, these stats are just like we already knew they were made up. Like, this just proves like you are going full made up, sabermetric style made up. Before sabermetrics actually caught on, I should say. But you're going way into left field on this one. This is too much even for colloquial organization like ESPN.
What's also kind of weird is when you give them that big of a percentage chance to win, even if the Celtics do win, which would be an incredibly good feat for them, their first title since 2008, I believe it was as well too, a fantastic just rise to superstardom between this young team. You're taking away a little bit of the steam when you say that you're supposed to win by 85%. Like you're like, well, you should have done that. It's like, well, how this team went 7 games with Giannis in it and won in his house. They went 7 games with the number 1 seeded Heat. They shut out Kyrie and Kevin Durant to get like. You're taking away that incredible run by saying they have an 88% chance or 85, whatever percent chance it was to win over our most recent dynasty in the Golden State Warriors, which arguably you could say is still a dynasty, honestly. I mean, it took a little bit of a hiatus there, but it's still find a better one in recent memory besides the Spurs, really. And even that's, considering how old we are, that's almost a decade ago now.
I mean, hey, these guys have been almost doing it for a decade, it feels like. I mean, goodness.
Like they picked up with the last one left. That's how long it's been.
It's been incredible to watch what the Warriors did. But I think to your point, you're exactly right. I mean, they're also ignoring the fact that before January 1st of 2022, this team was not projected to ever even make it out of the first round of the playoffs, if they even made it to the playoffs.
Play-in season.
Like, there was no guarantee for anything for the Celtics team. And then you said it, like you have a great playoff run like this, and then you're like, oh, we have an 86% chance to win. No, like stop being a prisoner to the moment. We're all prisoners to Boston and New York teams. The moment they become good or at least playing well, it's like all of a sudden, oh, they're unbeatable. It's impossible to beat them. It's like, no, and it's not. It's very easy. You just have to actually play your game and not let young kids dictate the tempo. And I mean, yeah, I don't. This is look. ESPN has already been. Me and ESPN have our own gripes. Let me just put it that way. And this just adds into the statistical griping I have with ESPN on another level.
And we're gonna go in transition now as Game 3 is underway as well too. So by the time some of you see this, the game will already be over. But I didn't want to. So we're gonna talk about things moving forward in the series as well too. I'm gonna start with you on this one as well too. What do you think is the key to the series for the Warriors going forward to take that 2-1 lead and be in the driver's seat throughout this series?
Oh, Draymond. I feel like Draymond is the key in this one. I mean, it actually runs this entire series. And I don't mean necessarily how he performs defensively. We all know he's going to play well defensively. It's going to be more of, can he run that point forward offense without getting out of control? Like we saw in Game 1, he just literally ran out of control in the second half for pretty much the entire second half and did not help their cause whatsoever. Obviously, you talk about Klay Thompson going missing in Game 2. Definitely needs to find his shot again. But Curry stepped up. Jordan Poole obviously hit quite a few, wonder shots, you should say, and then talk about the half court shot as well. It's like, okay, well that helps. But really, I do look at Draymond as the key for the Warriors in this one. If they're gonna pull this one out, it's gonna be focused around Draymond running that point forward offense.
Absolutely. And when he's cooking, when he's distributing, slinging, and dicing and flexing, that's when they're at their best as well too. It's when he's getting ejected or dribbling the ball off his foot because he's pressing a little too much is when he gets a little bit out of sorts. So I think when he's walking the line, he's good. It's when he's completely avoiding the line or front flipping over the line. That's when they end up being in trouble. So Draymond's got if he's tight roping on top a few like 30 feet in the air as well too, they're in a really good spot. For me, I'm going to look at the Warriors, and you kind of mentioned I'm going to go back to it. I think they got to find a way to get Klay going in some way, shape, or form. So I think the way the Celtics play defense has really, really mitigated Klay since they're so good at switching and staying on you and not giving you a lot of space. And Klay's never really been known as the take you off the dribble guy. He's the one dribble and shoot guy at most. He's the guy that just finds the space and hits it. And the Celtics aren't giving him any space. And that was pre-injury Klay. The last 2 years of injuries, Klay, and still working his way back. Doesn't have quite the same burst. He's still liable to get you 60 in a game 6 or 40 in a game 6 in a given moment as well too. So that's not getting it twisted by any means as well too. But he's not quite the same. I think they got to find a way to get 17 to 20 out of him on relatively decent shooting because Steph's been underratedly really, really good. I know the second half of that Game 1 he was a little rough, but Game 2 he made every big shot they needed. He was in full control of the game. So if his running mate could just give you a little bit more, just a little bit, or if they could just get to a Game 6 and you get Game 6 Klay, who liable to go Michael or whatever, how the song goes as well too. Just get him into that Game 6 moment as well too, and I think he'll be.
I didn't even. Man, now you got me thinking towards my duos. I didn't even think about the Like Mike crew with Lil Romeo and the kid from Stuart Little.
You mean the baby versions of Kawhi Leonard and Nick Nurse?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I
didn't think about Kawhi or Nick Nurse. Oh, what am I doing with my life? Oh God. Anyways, yeah. No,
we don't have enough time on the podcast to answer that question. But that for me, that's what I'm looking at with the Warriors. Is I want to see Klay be able to get Klay going in an efficient manner.
Yeah. No, Klay is the weirdest anomaly in basketball today, where he is still kind of that old school guy who predicates his game off of his mid range shot starting to hit and then going from there. And again, he does this without dribbling the ball, which still is fascinating to everybody in the world that he can do it. It's actually very fitting that he does it the way he does. It's basically that's like as unselfish as possible, but again, it starts at the mid range and works its way out, and that's going to be key if he can get that mid range shot going, and whether it be a turnaround mid range or just a step in mid range shot, that's the first step. Seeing that ball go in the net there, and then everything else for that kid flows like water, if you will.
Like water takes the shape it needs. But we'll be remiss not saying. Now we're going to look at the Celtics. What do you think is the key for the Celtics here moving forward to take control of this series?
Oh, I mean, I think the Celtics they've been playing their game, which is fine. I do worry a little bit about Jaylen Brown kind of disappearing in Game 2 there at the end, and it was just kind of like where he kind of Draymonded it in the game in Game 2, if you will. There's Draymond, I won't say cost, but he definitely didn't help the cause of the Warriors in Game 1. Jaylen Brown definitely did not help the cause in game 2. Also, Marcus Smart between game 1 and game 2, kind of again same thing, just a little AWOL there. Need a little better performance from him. Jason Tatum can't do it all. It's the biggest thing. Is like, I know he wants to be Superman. I know he wants to be Kobe. But even Kobe had Derek Fisher. He had Pau Gasol. He had Shaq. He had Lamar Odom. Let's not forget how good Lamar Odom was during those times. He had talent around Trevor Ariza back in the day. I mean, that Trevor Ariza was fantastic. Like, so he does need help. You can't just let him do it by himself. He's going to try. He's going to keep trying. And that also is kind of a detriment. Like, he needs to be accepting of the help for Al Horford, for Marcus Smart, from these guys coming off the bench as well.
Absolutely. That's definitely as well too. I'm gonna look at Robert Williams as my key for that one as well too. Because if he can give you if he can get you like 30 to 35 minutes without like foul trouble and with health, well, that's completely limits the Warriors because you're getting nothing in the paint if he is on the court whatsoever. You are free throw line and out, not free throw line and in. And honestly, those 3-pointers might not be safe if he's coming on the pick and roll switch too. Like, be careful pulling that thing quickly. He'll send into the 4th row. But I think he just eliminates so much of those easy buckets for the Warriors that can go. Like, Andrew Wiggins isn't nullified, but he is severely mitigated when you erase the paint like that as well too, because Williams also covers so much space, so he could kind of flash to the corner if Draymond's chilling there, but still recover and contest Andrew Wiggins' attempt as well too. He's not like Rudy Gobert could sometimes get stuck in the middle and he can't protect the rim because he's sitting on the 3, or vice versa. Robert Williams is quicker of foot, so he can do a little bit of both, and that makes Draymond. You got to hope Draymond's hitting outside shots at that point offensively. He's not known to get points, but in general, this makes it even harder for him to get points. Steph, when he's struggling from the outside, he can't go in and do up and under flip and his incredibly fancy ball handling layup package that makes no sense sometimes. So I think if they can get a good amount of minutes from Robert Williams, it's going to flip that just from health as well as like just not getting a foul trouble standpoint. That's going to change the game effectively. And it's going to give Al Horford a little bit of rest too, because we kind of saw game 1 gives you 26, but he's an old man now. So he takes a little bit of time to get going. He's got to rev the engine. It's the lawnmower. You got to pull it 2 or 3 times to get it going. Once it gets going, he's rolling, but sometimes you don't get a chance to crank it a few times. You see what we saw in game 2, where the legs got a little bit heavy.
He definitely needs to let that engine warm up a little bit longer next time before he starts playing. And you mentioned Robert Williams swatting the ball in a game into row 4. Like in Boston, that's about row 15. In San Francisco or wherever they're playing at now in the new Oracle Arena, that's about maybe to the backside of the bench with how far those fans are. And honestly, that's another part of this aspect that we're not even thinking about. These Golden State fans, we're used to them being absolutely obnoxiously wild. And I mean that in the best ways to some degree.
When Steph hits a 3, they get as rowdy as anybody.
But at the same time, like this new arena, I mean, it's almost like an echo chamber. Like, not even an echo chamber. It's like an echo vacuum in there. It's like everything just it doesn't resonate the same way. It almost feels like an empty stadium at some point in time. So if you're the Celtics, you really want to quiet that stadium down, and the best way to do that, obviously, on top of just playing well, is to also shut them down. But like, it's an already quiet stadium, so you just got to quiet down arena. So you got to quiet it down on just a little bit more, and you'll be fine.
Just a little bit more as well. So it's definitely a fun series. Game 3 underway right now at the time of this recording as well too. So we definitely look forward to seeing how the rest of the series plays off. And as soon as we're done here, we're going to have to catch the back end of that as well too. So, but that'll do it for our tip-off segment as well. So now we're going to head into the one that Kelcey's definitely been waiting for as well too. You can tell he's been itching to get to this one. We're going to head on over to the main event. The main event, of course, brought to you by In the Clutch Apparel. Click the link in our bio, use code HILOSPORTS. Get yourself a nice little discount as well, too. Some fantastic sports-related gear and apparel. Don't want to miss out on that as well. And Kelcey, national bet, it's Friends Day. We're in sports. We're talking sports. Let's talk some dynamic duos and best sports friends as well, too. So we each got ourselves a top 10 list as well, too. And you know what, Kelcey? I'm going to pass the baton to you as first. I'm going to let you go ahead and kick us off because I think you got some pretty interesting ones.
So I do, and I'm going to start it off. I'm actually going to. This maybe breaks a rule, and I don't know. I'm a rule breaker.
Oh, you breaking a rule, so let's keep.
But
tradition.
to be fair, they're sisters, and you grow up together, you compete together, you're going to be friends and enemies at the same time. These two have more than shown they are friends. I'm starting with the GOAT of all GOATs when it comes to tennis, and maybe the second GOAT of tennis of all time. Venus and Serena Williams, or Serena and Venus, as I have it written down there, as on my best duo list. I don't know where to put them. Let's be clear. Like, we're not ranking these top 10. These are just our 10 picks. for this, like I said, I miss Nick Nurse and Kawhi earlier, and I miss oh, sorry, it was Bow Wow and the kid from Stuart Little, but from like Mike. So look, but Venus and Serena, I got to give them on my list, and they got to be the first mention, because if I don't mention them first, I would be remiss. Like, they are just that fantastic of a duo, and best friends at the same time. I mean, they root for each other, so that's the biggest thing.
And from the sports perspective, they clearly growing up made each other better as well too. On top of it too, like the rising tide raises all ships. Well, these ships don't get too much higher than that as well too. They did a fantastic job along the way, as well as you mentioned, great friends, sisters, everything as well too. And the two most prominent women's tennis players of all time, almost undoubtedly too, if not definitely in the top three. I don't know who else you put in there. I mean, like, definitely those two are right up there though.
Yeah, definitely. You have Wozniacki. Obviously, her and Serena are very good friends as well. But honestly, it was like I could have put Wozniacki in here, but at the same time, that's just betraying the entire Williams family. And look, if anybody watched anything about King Robert, that in the movie, you don't betray that Williams family. So I stuck with the Williams here.
That's a really good one as well too. I like that one, kicking off with some siblings, and you know what? We may have some siblings on my list as well too. I mean, it might go a little bit of both ways.
Oh, so I didn't break a rule. All right, we're good. All right, we're going for it.
No. I mean, this time you didn't as well too. So I'll go and switch over to mine now as well too for my first one as well too. I'm gonna stick with the same theme. I'm gonna stick with some relatives as well too. But I'm going to this from tennis to the sport of fisticuffs and MMA. And I'm looking at Nick and Nate Diaz, the Stockton brothers themselves as well too. They perfected the Stockton slap, the original trash talkers, so much so that they have not been in like title fights or top 5 caliber fights in 8 years now, something like that. And they still have a cult following that is unmatched by anybody as well too. And they were in each other's corners every time. They've been together since 15, 16, 17 years old, training in the streets of Stockton. Who anyone who's been there, you can know it's not exactly a walk in the park. You're definitely not walking comfortably in the park. Your head's on a swivel, and like your fists are clenched at all times. It's not an easy walk. And these two have been together since the beginning. Same gym, same team, on the climb, in each other's corners just about every fight when they were allowed to as well. And even after every press conference, Nate Diaz shouts out Nick Diaz Army, a few explicits here or there that usually get beeped out if they're on ESPN, among other things. And to the point where on the famous Strikeforce brawl, when one of their teammates got pushed by somebody else, both of them come running in and start throwing hands in a fight that they weren't even involved in as well too. So give me Nick and Nate Diaz kind of in the same vein you had with Venus and Serena. It's like they're brothers, but they're clearly like best friends too with each other as well too.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I gotta say this about Nick and Nate Diaz. They are so just Stockton born and bred is the best way I could put this. That I couldn't find a picture that is not either A, explicit enough, or non-explicit enough to put on the show, or B, clear enough because they weren't walking away from the camera at all times to bring on and add an image to these. So we just went no images with all of them because we couldn't find any of the Diaz brothers. They're the hardest to, in all of these pictures and all of these people, to find a picture of.
Absolutely as well too. So we both kicked off with a little bit of sibling duos, but Kelcey, who do you have next on your list of 10 best duos?
All right, so this one I'm gonna jump into. Maybe an old school. I guess a lot of people don't know about these. I don't know. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. It depends on how closely you follow baseball. If you know Adrian Beltre, you know he doesn't get along with a whole lot of people.
It's a short list. Like you probably count it on your hands.
Exactly. There are two, and one of these people made this list, and it is because of just how much of a brotherly duo they have. Elvis Andrus, Adrian Beltre. If you guys don't ever if you have a moment, go to YouTube and just look up Adrian Beltre, Elvis Andrus highlights, and literally it's going to be 5 minutes of them just poking fun at each other, like just pulling each other's shirt jerseys out untucked, slapping each other on the head, just having a good time, being really best friends on the road. And 181 games, however many they end up playing if they go to the playoffs, you need all that. You need the friend, you need the camaraderie, and they had that for many years, and it was always fun to watch. It was very few people that, like I said, Adrian Beltre ever was like cool with, and that was always one. And that's why it was entertaining to watch.
Absolutely as well too. And you know what, we had siblings in our last segment. These two kind of act like those like 10, 11-year-old brothers that always kind of like pick on each other, like flick each other in the ear, pull the shirts, little bars back and forth, things like that. Like they have the same kind of vibe back and forth. So I like this one. It's a very underrated one. It's like if you know, but then once you find out, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense now.
And if anybody's wondering who the other person I referenced about Adrian Beltre is, it's King Felix
Hmm.
Hernandez. Those two, obviously, from their time together as well.
Absolutely as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into my next one. Mine's I'm gonna go to the gridiron for this one, and it's a underrated one because not many people know about it. But I'm looking at DJ Moore from the Carolina Panthers, the receiver, and Curtis Samuel, the former receiver of the Panthers, now with the Washington football team, Commanders, the Gryffindor, whatever they are at this point as well, too. Ronald Weasley's team. And the reason I'm going with this one that's kind of underrated is they were both really, when they were both on the Panthers, they were really close. DJ Moore wore number 12, Curtis Samuel wore number 10. After Curtis Samuel left, I think he was released and was signed with Washington, DJ Moore changes number to 2, which 12 minus 10 equals 2. And then there's a picture of them both in the hallway before a game. They used to like dap each other up before going out. DJ Moore did it on one side and Curtis Samuel did it on the other side, and they put the picture kind of next to each other as well, too. So I think that was something that was really interesting. They came into the league around the same time. In fact, it might have been the same draft class, if I'm not mistaken. And then just the little the brotherly love they had going through, even through separate teams, still able to keep it strong as well. So it's a more intriguing one, but just that picture alone and like that little idea of maybe is that why DJ Moore changed his number to 2? Well, we'll never know for sure, but just little thing like that, I think it's an underrated duo.
Yeah, look, I still think of the picture where DJ Moore's hugging emptiness after the move, and that's that picture. Like I tried so hard to find that picture so we could put it up here, and unable to find like a good image of it and one that we're allowed to put up here. And yeah, it was one of those ones that like you saw the picture and you're like, man, that like we all know football's a game and it's a business, but that's one that hits a little deeper. Like that was just like that one hit a different level of like, oh man, that's gut wrenching.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it may be a business and everything like that, but the people and the relationships are a lot more than just that. Sometimes, depending on who it's depending, but sometimes they do go deeper than that. So we'll go ahead and move on to your third one now. Third on your list, and I think this is where you're about to start cranking things up a little bit here. I think you've been easy on us, but I think you have some tricks up your sleeve.
I maybe could go some different tricks here. I want to go with a very wholesome, lovable duo and one that maybe most people, I hope you guys know about this. If you don't know about these two, we're missing out on life. And that is Tim Duncan and the masterclass himself, Greg Popovich. The dynamic of all dynamic duos as far as coach-player relations, friends together. I mean, these two are as hilarious as they get when it comes to just old man dad vibes in all the world. Like Greg Popovich might be a younger person at soul than Tim Duncan is, but they both give you the same dad vibes at the end of the day. And let's not forget Tim Duncan still rocking the mid-90s, super baggy, everything clothes, and Greg Popovich telling him he needs to go get a tailored suit eventually. And Tim Duncan just like, nah, man. Like not even for his own induction into the Spurs Hall of Fame. He was like, nah, I'm good. Still rocking Tommy Bahama.
And he still shops at Old Navy. There's still been pictures of him hanging out in Old Navy as well, too. I don't know how he finds clothes that fit him in there, but they exist, I guess. He finds a way, or there's like a Tim Duncan section in that particular Old Navy as well, too. But he is, honestly, he acts about how Greg Popovich looks, and Greg Popovich acts about how Tim Duncan looks. Like you mentioned, they're the ultimate yin and yang as far as personality to age.
Yeah, no, I just love these two together. Like they crack me up. They've always had a good relationship from the time they were players to time. Obviously, Tim Duncan came in the league with Popovich as his coach, and now as Duncan's retired and moved into potentially coaching, they've continued their strong relationship. And yeah, it's one that I'm interested to see where it goes. I think honestly, these two could become like a coach and assistant coach, and it could be very hilarious for everybody.
Absolutely. You know, I'm glad you said hilarious. That's going to transition us perfectly into this next one because this one, when I was thinking, I was racking my brain. I was like, what would be a good one for this? I was like, oh my goodness, this is quite the fit. We're going to go to the Pacific Northwest, and we're going to talk Pete Carroll and Will Ferrell. Pete Carroll, obviously the head coach of the Seahawks, and Will Ferrell, Jackie Moon, and honestly just Will Ferrell. That's all you need to know at this point. Their relationship is interesting because it goes back to when Pete Carroll was at USC. Both USC guys, but Will Ferrell's one of the top boosters, is there too, one of the most famous alumni. Pete Carroll, arguably the best coach in USC history as far as football goes. And even to the point where even now as the coach of the Seahawks, Will Ferrell still, when Pete Carroll wants to prank his team or mess around with them, he brings in Will Ferrell as well, too. There was once Will Ferrell showed up and pretended to be Greg Olsen in a virtual meeting as well, too. Like the amount of different hijinks that he gets with him as well, too. He was literally brought in as a player for the Zoom call. It's absolutely hilarious. They had Will Ferrell kicking field goals into the audience and stuff like that too during when he was a coach at USC. Like it's a very unlikely duo, but at the same time, it just makes so much sense as well too. Like honestly, if you set them next to each other, I can almost see them looking a little similar as well too at that point. So I like this one as Pete Carroll and Will Ferrell from a hilarity standpoint.
And even though it's a very funny kind of matchup, I gotta say they are really good friends because even after the Super Bowl, if we all know the Super Bowl that I'm going to reference, that is the Marshawn Lynch
Yeah.
non-handoff. Will Ferrell was actually on a press tour, and then gave time from his press tour to actually be like, no, look, you gotta. It's in the prisoner of the moment. It happens. It's a game. You can't be so hard on him. And it's like literally backing up his friend. Obviously, as if you guys don't know the story, Will Ferrell became a Seahawks fan once Pete Carroll became the head coach of the Seahawks. He betrayed his old team, whoever it was, doesn't matter anymore, to become a Seahawks fan. So it's a very lovable, interesting story between the two of them.
Absolutely. And you mentioned too, there's even ones about him defending the Seahawks after they lost that Super Bowl to fans of that team like Mark Wahlberg as well too, and having their back as well too. So following his friend even to another level of profession and changing teams on it as well too. So a fun, unlikely duo that most people don't really know about. And even that one still catches me off guard sometimes. Like, really? Pete Carroll and Will Ferrell, you know what? Okay, you know what? That's cool. I'm just gonna let it happen, but I'm not gonna let it slide.
Yeah. So obviously, I'm going to jump into mine now, and we talk about some odd duos as well. This one might be, I don't know. I feel like this is an odd duo. I don't know if it actually is, but it feels like an odd duo. I know they played together for a long time. I know they had great winning seasons together. But Derek Jeter and Jorge Posada, and it's only because Jorge Posada is such a like hobbit. Like he literally just doesn't do anything with his life. And then next thing you know, he's making these runway like red carpet appearances with Derek Jeter and Derek Jeter's family. Like it's like the Pasada and his family and Jeter and his family are going out to dinner, and there's like all these paparazzi around. But like Jorge Posada does not pop up on paparazzi anywhere ever. And Derek Jeter, obviously Barcelona and the Marlins now stepping away. He did hire Jorge Posada before the season started, before he stepped away, to work with the Marlins as well. So these two have a long-standing relationship. Came up in the exact same season together. Obviously, to talk about one of the best runs of an MLB franchise with those Yankees, and I mean, two perennial they are Hall of Famers, no doubt about it. And they are best friends at the same time. So it is definitely a duo that maybe is a little weird just because you don't ever see Posada, but whenever you see Posada, it's because he's with Jeter.
Pretty much, you can get Jeter without the Posada, but you can't get the Posada without the Jeter as well too. And you know what? I don't blame him. I'd hang out with Derek Jeter too. Honestly, if you want to hang out with me, I would gladly go down the red carpet with them. I'd stick out like a sore thumb, but that's a risk I'm willing to take just to hang out with Jeter and them as well too. So good on Posada as well. I like this one. That old Yankees dynasty, you could kind of see it a little bit on the field, but it didn't quite stand out as much. It was more like after that dynasty, after their baseball careers, is when it really started to pop off. It's like, oh yeah, those now it makes a little bit more sense. And then Mariano Rivera said like, hey guys, I'm here if you want to include me too. Like,
yeah, same season, and everything. Mariano Rivera, the only biggest thing is with them, Mo is literally in a class by himself down in the Caribbean, just hanging out. Like, hey guys, I'm not coming to New York. I'm sorry.
Like you can come hang out with me. You can see why I don't want to leave though. But like we're still friends. We can hang out, but you got to come to me. That's
like I own this entire island. I don't want to leave. Like I'm just not going to.
Absolutely. And speaking of people who could own their entire island, one half of this next duo might be the richest man on both of these lists as well too, as he is the owner of of sports teams on top of it. So I'm looking at it, the one that is a courtship of rivals, as it is labeled on the documentary. I'm looking at Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. It's very interesting because they literally started as rivals, and I don't like that guy. Well, I don't like that guy. I want to beat that guy. I want to beat that guy. Then from that famous Converse commercial that they both started, from that point on, it was all history. As they basically, even in the documentary, like, Larry even said, I kind of like Magic. I met Irvin, and I kind of liked him after that. And then Magic was saying how much he liked Larry after that, and to the point where they were pretty much, I don't want to say best friends because Larry Bird doesn't have best friends, but he has really, I guess, that as close as they can get at that point as well too.
Unless you're a bottle of Bush, I don't know a bottle of Bud. You're not best friends with Larry.
It's just an absolutely an interesting duo that they kind of formed to the point where Magic even convinced Larry to join the Dream Team, and Larry's like, "No, I'm just trying to get through the season with my back without my back." Well, and Magic's like, "You just have to be there. Just sit in the corner. I'll get you the ball." He's like, "Fine." He managed to convince a nearly decrepit spine to Larry Bird, who was on his last leg, to come and join that Dream Team as well, too. Which no one knew how that was going to turn out. They didn't realize what it was going to turn into, and so the fact that Magic Johnson was able to convince him to do that when no one convinces Larry Bird to do anything. And the fact that they had such a strong back and forth, even to this day, they still have such a strong rapport as well. So a rocky start, if you will, that turned into quite the dynamic duo. And I want to see Magic hire Larry Bird in some sort of capacity. Like if he gets a basketball team, maybe it's like that GM player personnel, because Larry had he did a pretty good run with the Pacers as well too, as far as like the GM player personnel and scouting, that type of thing. He's got a pretty good eye. So maybe they find a way to team up again here before long. That could be very interesting.
Hear me out. Pat Riley, Phil Jackson, Magic, and Larry Bird somehow working together on the same team.
Either that's going to be the greatest team of all time, or there's going to be an absolute mayhem of chaos in the back end of things that I would love to be a fly on the wall for.
There will be punches thrown only between the front office, never between any of the players.
And that's because they only won 60 games. It's like, well, the team's doing great. We should have won 70. And then they'll turn into a fisticuffs as well. But that's the rivalry turned into dynamic duo friendships. And we're not even going to get into all of what they did for basketball together as well, to what they did for sports, what they did for just that entire. You can go look at them in documentary. Everyone at this point knows about Magic and Larry. And so this one's a very fun duo that encapsulates more than just sports as well, too. And really helped bring sports where they are today.
Absolutely. So, you mentioned fisticuffs. This duo actually kind of went the reverse of Magic Larry for at least for a good 6-month period. And if you guys don't know anything about world soccer, you might not understand these two's love together as friends. But Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney played together for Man United. In the 2006 World Cup, however, they played against each other. Obviously, Ronaldo for Portugal, Rooney for England. Ronaldo draws a penalty on Wayne Rooney, or draws a foul on Wayne Rooney. He then goes and scores the ensuing penalty. And in between all of that, Ronaldo clearly flopped. I mean, it was a very clear flop. This was before replay, before VAR. He stands up, looks at Rooney and winks at him in the camera. And Rooney's just like giggling. Like, oh man, I knew he did it. Like, of course.
This guy.
And let's just say England didn't enjoy that as much as Wayne Rooney enjoyed that little moment between him and Ronaldo. And people there was boycotts. There were get him out of England type of situations with Ronaldo. And it was a tumultuous 6 months following that. Man United ended up going on and winning a championship the next year. So it didn't really matter. But it just tells you these two friendship literally battled two countries hating on the other guy to still remain best friends. And even today, I mean, their sons still play soccer together, and they, still get together every year. In I think honestly, Miami, they usually get together and have a good time, with Rooney now being a coach, Ronaldo still being a player. It is a very fun situation that kind of molded their friendship to even stronger bonds.
Absolutely, as well too. That's a really good one as well, and one that kind of, as you mentioned, goes into international as well too. It crosses over country borders on top of it. A lot of ours have been pretty domestic, but that one that crosses some border lines as well too on top of it.
Wars have been fought for less. Let's just be completely honest.
Absolutely, as well too. So the next one I'm going to kind of turn to here is a very, very, very old school one. We're going way back in the day. One that was a real life friendship as well as a movie related friendship as well too. I'm looking at Gail Sayers and Brian Piccolo, two players that played with the Bears as well too. And they, if you've seen the movie about them, you kind of know about as well too. Gail Sayers and kind of his struggles along with, and Brian Piccolo being there for him as well too. And it's funny as they started off as not too great either as well too. Piccolo is saying things along the lines, what if an arrogant son of a gun, when talking about Gail Sayers as well, like that as well. They weren't exactly the best of friends to start, but they got really close during their time with the Bears. Fun fact, they were the first interracial roommates in NFL history as well too. So little fun fact to throw that on top of it as well too. I just learned that the other day as well. But that just the absolutely fantastic friendship as well too that they had, and the fact that they made a movie, Brian's song, about at the center of it as well too, that kind of talks about it as well. So when I look at that one, just Absolutely fantastic. Gail Sayers beat this by the side of Brian Piccolo the whole way as well too. It was absolutely fantastic. It was an absolutely fantastic story between two friends that span beyond sports, span just it into life in general as well too. Like we made best duos outside of sports, just best duos in history that people know of. They'd be on the list. Then when you factor in sports in it, it's a no-brainer as well.
Oh yeah, no, this is one that I was glad to see on your list because I was like, I don't know how to. I didn't want to bring it up because I just personally felt like I was like there's so much behind this Brian song and obviously their relationship. It was a heavy duo, like it's such a heavyweight duo. Honestly, it's so you had it on the list. I was like, all right, cool. I'm not putting it on my list again because we were good talking about it once. I don't want to talk about it twice type of situation. But honestly, yeah, this is going to be on. I feel like if you've ever seen the story, you've heard the story. And especially knowing, the added history to it that they're the first interracial roommates in NFL history. You add that special little caveat in there, and that makes it even more historical and more meaningful. And so, yeah, this is good.
Oh, good. I was saying the fact they played the same position, they were such best friends too. Like they were in the same, like they were competing for the same spot on the field, both as running backs, and they were always going head to head as well. And they were still those type of best friends. Like there's no animosity or jealousy that you could come to sometimes see. Like there's always the talk of like, oh, he's a great, like this quarterback's a great mentor for the young guy, all that sort of thing. And in the back of that guy's head, he's thinking, you son of a gun, I'm not going to help you at all whatsoever. In fact, these two guys were two best friends while competing for the same spot as well too. And everything Gail was there for Brian the entire way. Brian, unfortunately, passing away at a young age as well too. Just everything that's centered around that and what they encapsulated in the movie, which even from what I understand too, from what they said, the movie didn't even do the best job of it, but the movie did still depicted in such a positive manner. So I feel like we were going to actually rank them at numbers. This one would undoubtedly be closer to the top.
Oh, without a doubt. But I am glad that you actually brought this one up, though, like I said, because it does also introduce the other aspect of our list, which is the movie side of things. So I'm going to immediately jump right into that one and take my opportunity and go with one of the more entertaining duos on this list. I'm going to go with the Bash Brothers, the OGs themselves, Fulton Reed and Dean Conway. Dean Conway from Chicago, Illinois, by the way. Just if you've never seen D3 when he walks in and reads off his scholarship. But no, him and Fulton Reed from Minneapolis, Minnesota, smashing all sorts of things in the streets before he started playing for the Ducks. These two, honestly, it was the most entertaining parts of most of the Mighty Ducks series is Fulton and Dean getting together and becoming Bash Brothers in D2. And let's not forget Kenny Wu joining the Bash Brothers as the little tiny former figure skater in D2 as well. And that was, this is just this is more entertainment value between these two because it was so fun seeing their relationship. And if you guys don't know who the actor who played Fulton Reed, he actually now plays the lawyer from Daredevil, not Matthew Murdock, not Daredevil himself. He plays his best friend and partner growing up. Fulton Reed does. So fun fact for you, he now moved his way into comic book noir as well as young sports movies as well.
Young sports movies, comic books. I'm surprised you waited this long. I figured this would be the one you were ready to get right out of the gate as well. This one's like right up your alley.
I had to stick with the main theme of it being sports related first. Plus Venus and Serena. Nobody passes Venus and Serena Williams on a list. Let's be honest.
No one passes them as well too. I'm just saying maybe you could jump ahead. That's all. But that's a really good one, an underrated one too. I like it. I do have one more movie one, but I'm gonna save that one for just a little bit later. Next, I'm gonna jump into one of the more recent duos as well too. That kind of took the duo world by storm as well too, especially this last season for those that kind of caught the national eye. I'm going to take us to the city of Cincinnati that started in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We're looking at Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase, the two young superstars, that quarterback and receiver. And not just because of what they did last year, where Ja'Marr Chase is a rookie, one of the best rookie seasons ever. Joe Burrow, his first full season, they go to the Super Bowl, recreating incredible magic, the quarterback number one receiver dynamic that a lot of teams and players have to. I mean, you could go down a list and quarterback and receiver say they're best friends. We can make a 30-page long duo of ones that could be reason to make this list. What makes this one a little bit different is the fact that they did it in college. When Ja'Marr was 19 and Joe Burrow was 23, 24. They were still young spring chickens at the time. They go to the next level. They pick up right where they left off, where Joe Burrow had his knee basically exploded. Ja'Marr Chase took the year off because of the COVID situation. They had not played together for 2 years at that point. And within their first game, they connect on a 50-yard fader out touchdown against the Vikings and go on to that miraculous run. They even bought houses on the same block as each other. If I'm not mistaken, they were right next door. If not, they're within very easy walking distance as well.
Yeah.
Even their dads you can see them on the sideline as basically best friends as well too. It's absolutely incredible how they've stayed close. And Ja'Marr Chase is like 21 years old. He could barely buy alcohol. And they're already these type of best friends, and it's only going to be even more so going forward.
Let's not forget Ja'Marr Chase bought Joe Burrow a brand new plated grill before the Super Bowl this last year as well. He actually helped him find the the Burr Nike checkmark necklace that Joe Burrow wore as well. That's so. Look, Ja'Marr Chase always keeping Joe Burrow swaggy. That's first of all. Secondly, these two on the field are just unstoppable as well. So I do like that one as well. That is a very, very good choice because these two are going to be the next up and coming duos. And I mean, we're not just talking like friend duos. We're talking like powerhouse duos for long term as well.
Sports duos, human duos, all of it, and also probably expensive duos. So Cincinnati better start putting some pennies in the piggy banks. You're gonna have to pay both of them a whole lot of cheese coming up here as well too. So definitely be ready because you can't get one without the other.
Don't worry, they have plenty of Skyline cheese up there for the Skyline chilies. So they got.
Ketchup. We're not going to talk about that nastiness. We're going to move on to your list before I start gagging. So who do we have next on your list now?
Ironically, we are staying in the city of Cincinnati for my list, and that is a previous duo. Ironically, the quarterback wearing number 9 as well in Cincinnati, and that is my Chad Johnson, Carson Palmer duo. You talk about the OGs in Cincinnati. These two are it. Chad Johnson, let's not forget, welcomed in Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Ja'Marr Chase on this new season when they released the new jersey sets. He welcomed it in to get their new jerseys, and look, it is very fitting that Chad Johnson and Carson Palmer are on this list because I don't think there's two more different dudes in the history of the world. Carson Palmer literally lives in the woods in Montana, and Chad Johnson is from Miami, Florida. And I do mean Miami, Florida. And he is Dade County born and raised, whereas Carson is a mountain boy to say the least. Actually, I might even be wrong. I think it actually is Idaho is where he actually lives, but it's right on the edge of Montana as well. But it's in the mountains. I mean, like, it can't be any different. Like, Chad Johnson literally drove an RV up there to hang out with Carson Palmer, and he dressed in, like, full woodsman gear and everything. And it's not like, they've lost touch with each other. They still keep it in touch, obviously. And it is this is a duo that I just find really entertaining. And they were entertaining on the field, not just performing-wise, but just, like, every time they were in an interview together, they were hilarious. And this one is just one that always sticks out in my mind as one of the OGs as far as a dynamic duo on the field goes.
It is funny that they were so dynamic and so friendly and everything when they are such polar opposites, as you mentioned, like Chad Johnson / Chad Ochocinco when he put the Ochocinco on his back, the river dancing, all of the calling the coach in the middle of the night, like, hey, coach, I'm open, and then hanging up, and just everything that he encompasses. And then Carson Palmer, who's about as serious as, like, he looks like a sheriff half the time too. He's pretty serious, pretty straightforward. I don't know if he is. I don't think he has ever told a joke in his life, and if he has, you couldn't tell by his mannerisms. Like, they could not be more opposite. But together, it was the perfect yin-yang matchup, both on the field and whenever they talk with each other, too. So I like this one a lot. I like how we kind of kept things almost very identical there as well, too. Like, two Cincinnati duos. Maybe this one will be able to get them a little farther. Maybe this one will be able to get that Super Bowl, too.
Hey, it takes version 2.0 before, to get more successful, right? Yeah. I do think to your point, Carson Palmer, and then there's like just adding in the difference between the two. Carson Palmer, USC Heisman Trophy winner. Chad Johnson, walk-on Oregon State.
Like third, fourth round pick, if I'm not mistaken, too.
Yeah, like completely different polar opposite trajectories as well. And then, like, that's just they made themselves. And Carson Palmer's only joke might have been, hey, TJ was open on that play, not you. That might have been the only joke he's ever told in his life.
And Chad did not take that as a joke as well.
No, not okay with that joke.
Not at all as well. So next one, moving up my list now, I'm going to go back into the octagon as well. So I'm going to two guys that aren't actually related, but they might as well be at this point. I'm going to talk about Daniel Cormier and Cain Velasquez. The reason I'm going with these two is, they've been training since Daniel Cormier started his career. Kane brought him in to help with wrestling, and since then they've been interlocked at that point. DC literally left the division so he wouldn't have to fight Kane when he could have been arguably the best heavyweight ever. But he wanted to avoid ever having to fight his friend. So anyone who's seen Daniel Cormier, that is a lot of weight he had to cut to get down to that 205-pound limit. That That is a lot of weight in a very short person. So that's hard to get rid of. And he still did it to himself for basically his entire career until there was an opening. And then he went up to heavyweight and was absolutely sensational. And what was that?
He dominated, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, the only person he really struggled with was the greatest heavyweight ever in Stipe, but beats everybody else as well, too. Absolutely sensational. But anyway, the fact that they were there through it all, crying on shoulders after losses as well, too. Always traveling, coaching in the corner. DC literally leaving the announcing booth to go corner him and then coming back early in his career before he was made the full-time announcer switch. With everything Kane's going through off the field, outside of the octagon in his own personal life right now as well, too. And DC is there to help him through that as well, too, and always supporting him, pushing the campaign, rightfully so, by the way, as with everything going on there as well. So give me these two as kind of like the preeminent best friends coming from the octagon without the family tie on top, without the blood relativity on top of it.
I like it. These two.
You hate yourselves in DC, but like this one.
Yeah, well, look, okay, so me and DC have our own, he's terrible at talking crap. And yeah, it's like he has nothing against me because he doesn't even know who I even am at this point in time. So let's probably keep it that way because I don't want to go any type of time in the ring with him, no matter how old or fat he gets. He will still kill me. And it does not matter. He is still dominant, but it's like same time I'll still talk better crap than him every day of the week. So you know what? That's say what you will. But no, I do love their story and their positivity towards each other. I mean, it does go to show you that the sport sometimes, earlier in the career, it does take precedence. But at the end of the day, if you choose to make your friends priority, it doesn't matter the sport. Like you can still succeed in your sport no matter what. And DC is a perfect example of that. Dropping down, especially that weight cut, that is hell of a weight cut for him. And yeah, it was an incredible story that he was so successful as he was. And then, by the way, I'm going to be more successful when I step up, God forbid. But
absolutely as well too. So we're getting into the final stretch here as well too. I imagine you have some good ones you've been saving behind as well too. So I think you're about to dip into we started the bag of tricks and now I think you're breaking out the lucky charms.
I have one last sports one and then we're going to straight sports movies for the last two. This last sports one, I do have to kind of buddy up off of your DC Kane Velasquez as far as like just being kind of brothers without being brothers. And that is Karl-Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. If you guys don't remember, way back in like mid 2000s when Blake Griffin was making his stage on the USA camp, there was the under 19 USA team in the arena for it, filled with Karl-Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell. By the way, Devin Booker also part of that team and also part of this best friend grouping as well. These two end up going to Kentucky together, along with D-Book, end up having a fantastic time, end up doing well, and then getting drafted. Don't end up on the same teams. Finally to get together in the Wolves. And it's like no time has passed whatsoever. And never mind. So they did not go to Kentucky together. My bad. And I don't know where D'Lo ended up going, but yeah, Brayton ended up. Yeah, there you go. Yep, he went to Ohio State. Karl-Anthony Towns and D-Book went to Kentucky. But yeah, anyways, they've been best friends. They play video games together on Twitch all the time. And I don't honestly. Cat is a lovable guy. I don't like watching him play basketball because again, big guy should dominate down low. Decides to play small guy basketball. Whereas D'Angelo Russell, I love watching play because he's very dynamic, but he just doesn't trust in himself enough at the end of the day. And that's why he doesn't, I mean, honestly, you don't see him perform as well as you might expect. So I do think these two as a duo work a lot better on the court as well. But off the court, they're just a fun-loving group. I mean, talk about two honestly wholesome dudes. They are about as wholesome as it gets. They may not, you see all the tattoos, you're like, I don't know, NBA players. No, they're legitimately like wholesome dudes.
Absolutely. Two fantastic. The fact that they still play video games together, as you mentioned as well, too, from time they were wee kids all the way through now, playing on the same team, kind of like when you're a kid that age, that's all you kind of think about is playing professional sports with your friends. It's too. You're like, man, how cool would this be? Or anytime you're playing in the backyard or at the park, it's like, dude, this is exactly kind of what you dream of. It's what dreams are made of from a young age as well, too. And you see they've played arguably their best basketball together in their careers as well, too, getting into a playoff series and taking it to the Grizzlies, giving them everything they can handle. So this one, I think, is starting to translate onto the court, and I think it could be better if they could stick together. It could be the best thing in the long term for them. As Cat's really hitting his prime, still shoots a little too many threes, but at least he's hitting them at like a 42% clip. So
yeah, like at least a little more. Like I can't complain.
We could complain a little bit less, and then D'Angelo Russell starting to find that groove as that combo playmaking point guard as well too. That's the ball handler that can also score. So I really like this one as an underrated one as well too. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into mine one, and mine's good. this one's on the football field, but it's kind of a different turn. Is where yours was kind of like young guys that are up and ascending. Mine's involving arguably two goats, depending on how you talk about it. We're gonna look at Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski. And honestly, the only real explanation we need for this one is after the Super Bowl parade where Gronkowski is carrying a drunk Tom Brady off the avocado tequila and carrying him around when he's completely plastered. That's all we really need to know about that one. But the fact that he got Gronkowski to come out of retirement, come join him in Tampa Bay, when the fact that they went everything they went through in New England, they always vouching for each other, nothing negative to say. And then on the field, arguably one of the best 1-2 punches we've ever seen. And a rarity is that a tight end was the number one target. Throughout history, it's usually been the receiver, not often the tight end. In this case, everything ran through Gronk really when he was healthy. Like he opened things up for everybody. And you can tell if Gronkowski doesn't go to Tampa Bay with Tom Brady, I don't know if they win that Super Bowl. There's a different level of comfort. You saw in the Super Bowl, Gronkowski is running 1/8 of the speed he usually runs, but he still gets just enough space where Tom Brady is going to test it, is going to willing to try it, and gets 2 touchdowns out of it. So I think there's just a lot of theirs is almost, it feels like a telepathic how they communicate with each other as well too. And on paper, they seem like such polar opposites. Gronkowski, party animal; Tom Brady, basically the GQ model, stay at home dad, kind of nerdy little thing, which we've kind of learned now. Tom Brady's got that other side to him as well too. Especially
that man danced at Carnival, and at that point in time, he can do whatever he wants. Secondly, he bagged one of the most beautiful women in the world as well at the peak of her career as a Victoria's Secret model.
Yeah. Either way, though, we'll stick with this one on the field, and I think just the dynamic duo they bring on the field as well as off the field. I'm gonna give them one as like my top football related one.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I can't honestly disagree with you at all on any of that. But yeah, look, you talk about two goats, arguably two goats together on that list. Obviously, as I said, I'm getting into the movie realm, so say what you will, but these two in the movie realm are kind of their own goats in their own way. I'm going Apollo Creed and Rocky Balboa. And their duo and friendship obviously led to the new Creed movie cycle, but I just love I love what these two just kind of brought to the screen. You have Apollo Creed, flash, finesse, like let me get in front of a camera and let me tell you how it's gonna be. You have Rocky Balboa, aw shucks, just a kid from Philadelphia running up the stairs and jumping up and down like a nerd type of situation, and like yeah, it's about as opposite as they get, and it's that wholesomeness as well, and it's also what leads to, in the Creed series, that whole dynamic between young Creed and Rocky as a mentor, much like Apollo was a mentor to Rocky at the end in those movies. And yeah, it's I have to put this one out there because it always just stands out in my mind, like the fact they got together, like in the gym at the last scene of the movie is them like, all right, I promised you a fight. We're going to do it behind closed doors, no fandom, no nothing. And then it cuts right before you see anybody land a punch. And it's like, oh, I want to see that now. Like, I want that friendship to continue, but we don't get to see it continue very much longer. And then, yeah, it was a fun friendship that I just have to throw on there because it was one that stands out from the movies.
Absolutely. And you know what? I want to also say, I want to know who won that fight. I know it's fictional. I know there was never actually determined, but I still want to know, damn it. Someone tell me who actually won it as well. I need to know as well. I hope they actually just did it and then see. And one day we somehow find out who it was. Because I'm just really curious.
I mean, according to Creed 2, Apollo did win. Granted, his mom said, Creed's mom said otherwise, but Rocky said that Apollo won.
This is why I say 6 in one and half a dozen in the other. I need to know for sure. I don't need contradicting statements. I need an answer. I need to see it with my own 2 eyes. And then you could fast forward to Rocky 4 when Apollo Creed ends up dying in the ring from Drago. Rocky immediately, what does he do? Walks straight into the training, goes to Siberia and begins training to avenge his friend immediately. Like, doesn't even have like a moment of pondering, not a moment of tears, just immediately. They lock eyes, and then the next scene is training montage right into it. Does not waste a second getting back into it as well. So this is, as far as movies go, this one is definitely really high up there, and kind of wish we had more of it. I wish we could add like Rocky 4 without Apollo dying. I wanted to see that duo a little bit longer, but I agree with you. This is a fantastic one as well. And I do have a movie one, but I have one non-movie one I'm going to get to first. We're going to take this one to the court. This is one of probably the most famous duos in recent memory as well too. We're heading down to South Beach, and we're going to look at Dwyane Wade and LeBron James. This all started with I'm taking my talents to South Beach, and from there it was history as well too. Like we kind of know that story. Everything that the banana boats, you could have thrown in Chris Paul and Carmelo Anthony on this one. Could have broke the rules and made it to like a four duo, whatever you wanted to do at that point. But just the back and forth these guys had, you could tell the friendship. They always are praising each other, did all their press conferences together to the point where we saw that picture of Dwyane Wade throwing it up without even looking, LeBron dunking it, one of those iconic pictures. It was literally to where when LeBron went back to Cleveland, they were struggling a little bit in that first season. LeBron takes a 2-week vacation in the middle of the season and goes to South Beach to work out with Dwyane Wade in Miami. Like, literally was like, things are rough. I'm going to hang out with Dwyane. Then they turn the season around and make the finals. Later on in his Cleveland tenure, they bring in Dwyane Wade. They once again find themselves together again, even though it didn't quite mesh. They're going to be forever linked, whether they like it or not as well, too, because Wade was in part responsible for LeBron getting over that hump, getting those titles. Like, where LeBron is now, is it because of Wade? And where Wade stands all the time is because of LeBron. They're forever linked. Whether they like it or not, they're going to be forever linked. It's almost kind of like Jordan and Scottie, just they don't hate each other anymore. And there's not quite the same venom that one has at this point as well, too. And they're on more equal ground. So I think these two are forever going to be linked, and I don't think they'd have it any other way.
Fair enough. No, I do like these two. And again, I saw them on your list, so I wasn't. They were one of my first thoughts as well to put on the list. But no, I mean, these two were fantastic together in Miami and everything off the court as well. They're so friendly together. They put their sons in the same high school in Sierra Canyon to try to make it work. Granted, Zaire did not have a good time because of the head coach at Sierra Canyon, so he transferred out. But they tried to make everything, and they tried to basically combine their families together as well. So. My final one, though, I'm going to the OG coach-player connection, the OG best friends, and that is Charlie Conway and Coach Bombay from the Mighty Ducks. 2 Mighty Duck sightings on this list for me. No surprise if you know me as well. One of my favorite movie series. But Charlie Conway, obviously the perennial captain, Coach Bombay, the perennial douchebag coach, and come together. Look, let's not forget Bombay slept with Conway's mom, and yet they were still friends. Bombay helped Conway the entire way, and Conway obviously following in the footsteps of Bombay. And it led to, now that you have the new Mighty Duck series, Bombay still coaching because of Charlie Conway back in the day, still leaving him to coach. So fantastic series. I could have honestly put Coach Bombay and Hans, the skate sharpener and the hockey owner, the hockey sales area, like the hockey shop sales owner. But you know what? This one felt like a better combination.
Yeah, I like that one. And honestly, I'm not even remotely surprised after once you said it. I was at first like, really? Then I was like, oh wait, yeah, okay, hold on, this makes sense. Now it has that double take for a moment, but it's an absolute perfect fit. So we're running lower on time. Jumping to my last one, also in the movie realm, we're going with Gary Bertier and Julius Campbell from one of my favorite movies, Remember the Titans, as well too. They started off hating each other, both the 2 All-American caliber players as well. They're forced to basically talk because of the coach, and they end up becoming best friends at the end of it, to where they literally fought a war together. Like they led the fight in that Virginia area, the race war that's going on in the 70s. They fought that head on and were the 2 captains behind it, breaking up fights in the school. So this one speaks for itself. Everyone go watch Remember the Titans. It should be mandatory for every year K through 12 in the curriculum that kids must watch Remember the Titans. That it should be curriculum required, and it's because of this too.
Look, if anybody doesn't know by now, strong side, weak side, don't know what that means yet. Look, go watch this movie. You'll find it.
I'll watch it
twice. A star-studded movie, first of all, and for these two to really be the part you take away from it, Bertier and Julius Campbell, tells you how strong of a story it was that they told. Like, obviously a lot of movies, they're not very, especially sports movies, not very story-based movies. Remember the Titans will forever be one of the best story-based movies in the world, whether it be sports or not. One of the best stories ever told. So
absolutely. As we head into our last about a minute or so left, we're going to head into crunch time.
Well, hold on, no. Because like always, I break rules. I got one rule breaker. Honorable mention for the best duos. Us. That's just
we should be first.
Okay. God, come on, man. Have a little love in this one. Come on.
Well, I mean, the fact that we only made honorable mention, I wanted to be first place. So that's the competitive side.
Well, we weren't ranking anybody, so I can't break that rule.
We made it. Honorable mentions. Well, proud to have you as a part of the duo as well too. Favorite co-host. So you know what? Before we got to get into crunch time now as well too. So for Kelcey, Swift Lifestyles, last one. If you could pick anyone in sports to be your dynamic duo co-pilot, who are you picking?
Big ugly Jason Kelcey. Nope. Jason Kelcey.
You know, that's a perfect match. I'm gonna go with Jarrett Allen because I feel like we have a very similar personality, center for the Cavaliers, and if nothing else, we could just play Pokemon together at that point as well too. And we'd both be wearing just basic like jeans and cheap clothing as well too. Granted, he's worth 150 million times more than I am, but at least we look similar as well too, and he wouldn't make me feel too bad about it. So I'd go with Jarrett Allen. So.
Fair enough. All right, I respect it. But that'll do it for us today, guys. Let us know what didn't make our list. But as always, we appreciate you guys, and we will see you guys next time.